Let's start by looking into what SongSketch does and how it can help you with arrangements. SongSketch lets you apply arrangement styles to your loops, so you can quickly try out your idea in the form of different arrangements. The intention of SongSketch is to be a helpful tool in the process of making a song. As soon as you have a loop with the main components of the song, you can use SongSketch to find a structure for your song. Then you can use this structure as a foundation when you continue to work towards a final track. One way of describing the difference between a loop and a song is that while a loop has a groove, a hook and a sound, a song also has a story. This story follows more or less the same structure as any movie or book, with some sections that build anticipation and eventually goes into a number of peaks throughout the song, all with the purpose of giving the listener an interesting experience. In SongSketch, you can choose between different templates for song structures and apply those to your loops. SongSketch visualizes the arrangements, which means that you can also use it as a learning tool. It will help you get familiar with arrangement techniques for a specific genre of music. Now let's look at where to find the different arrangement styles in SongSketch. In this drop-down menu, you can access a number of libraries with arrangements. Once you have selected one of these libraries, you can use a second drop-down to access all arrangements available in the selected library. Let's select one of these arrangement styles. This particular style has 15 parts. Each part is represented by a row, and each part has a type. The types are listed in this column. On the timeline over here, you can see at what bars in the song a particular part is going to be played. Note that the names of the parts in the arrangement are there to exemplify. You can use any musical elements that you have in your loop. For example, where it says chords here, you don't have to use chords. You can assign a pad or an arpeggio or some percussion. You can use the arrangement to experiment with whatever parts you happen to have in your loop. In the next section, we will add some of our own clips to this arrangement to see how it works in practice. To add SongSketch to a live set, go to Max for Live in the Live browser and unfold Max Audio Effect. If you have SongSketch installed, you should see it here. The next step is to drag SongSketch onto your master channel. Before having a closer look at the features in here, let's take a look at the clips that I have in my loop and make sure that they are ready to be used in SongSketch. In this example, I have a song idea that consists of 8 bars of music with 12 different parts. Some of these are MIDI clips and some are audio clips. Both audio and MIDI clips can be used in SongSketch. First, you need to make sure that you have all the clips you want to work with in the session view. If you, like in this case, have your clips in the Arranger view, you need to select the clips and cut and paste them onto the session view. You also need to place the clips you want to work with in the top scene. If you already have your clips in the session view, all you need to do is move the clips you want to work with to the top scene. SongSketch will look for clips in the top scene, so if you have some clips that you don't want to use, you can still keep them in the set further down in the session view. MIDI clips that you use in SongSketch will be cropped. Any MIDI notes outside the looped area will be lost, so make sure to keep a copy of your clip if you want to save any of that for later. Giving your tracks descriptive names will enable SongSketch to do a good job using your tracks in different arrangements. SongSketch uses keywords based on common English terms used in music production. In case you have drum tracks that contain multiple drum sounds, you need to separate these sounds onto different tracks. This applies to main elements that you want to be able to bring into an arrangement one by one, for example snare drum, kick drum, and hi-hat. On the other hand, if you have a drum rack with, for example, a percussion loop that happens to consist of different sounds, you probably don't want to separate it. If you are using a drum rack, the easiest way to separate the drum sounds is to unfold the rack channel, then drag each sound that you need to separate out of the drum rack. This creates a new track and it also creates a MIDI clip with the notes for this sound. Remember to give the new tracks descriptive names. If you're using 2 or more tracks for a single sound, you want to group these to work better with SongSketch arrangements. For example, SongSketch arrangements have one bass track by default. Therefore, if you have multiple tracks for one sound, such as a bass sound and a sub-bass playing the same notes, you want to group these tracks into an instrument rack. Likewise, if you have a single drum sound that consists of multiple tracks, for example a kick drum with 2 or more layered sounds, you want to group these into a drum rack. In this way, you can have multiple layers contained in one single clip. Here's a summary of what to keep in mind when preparing your clips for SongSketch. Place clips in the top scene of the session view. MIDI clips will be cropped. Save a copy if needed. Give your tracks descriptive names. Separate main drum sounds onto different tracks. Group layered sounds to one track. Now that you have a number of clips at your first scene, let's open up the same arrangement I opened up previously. In the left column, you can see all your tracks that have clips available. As you saw earlier, the part column is showing parts in the selected arrangement, and you can see where in the song the parts are playing. But now the parts have taken the colors of my tracks, because the parts have assigned themselves to the tracks I had in the set. As you can see, some parts in the arrangement have found tracks with similar names. For example, this chords part has found a track called chords, and therefore it got assigned to that track. There are also parts here that have been assigned to a track with a different name. For example, this other chords part has been assigned to a track called melody. This is all as it should be, since the names in the arrangement are intended to be examples. You can now rearrange your parts as you like. The rightmost column is named Assigned to. It can be used to reassign parts to different tracks. For example, if we look at our track called Riff, we can see it has been assigned to a part that is coming in quite early in the song, and it continues for a while. Let's say we think that this particular riff would be better suited to come in a bit later in the song and not last very long. We could then choose to assign this to a part here that comes in later in the song. To do this, I use the Assign menu and select the track called Riff. The pad part now moves down to the riff track we selected. Now we can see that our riff comes in later. Note that when we reassign a part to another track, the parts change places with each other. Now let's have a look at the timeline over here. The timeline is a preview of an arranged song. To listen and continue working with the arrangement, let's copy it over to the arrangement view. To place a song, use the To Arrangement button here in the middle. An arrangement will always be placed starting at bar 1 on the arrangement view, so make sure to delete or move anything you might already have in the arrangement view before you press the To Arrangement button. We can now play back the song and continue working with it just as we would normally do in the arrangement view. Let's sum up the basic SongSketch workflow. Find SongSketch under Max for Live, Max Audio Effect and drag it onto your master channel. Prepare clips and place in the top scene. Select a library and an arrangement style. Consider if you want to reassign or edit any of the parts. Before placing the song onto the arrangement view, move or delete anything you already have there. Select To Arrangement to place the song onto the arrangement view. Continue to work on your song in the arrangement view. Now let's have a closer look at the different parts that we might see in an arrangement. There are 3 kinds of parts. Specific parts have a quite specific role in the song, like bass, kick, drum and snare. Musical parts can be identified by the note icon. As compared to specific parts, they tend to be more interchangeable with each other. For example, instead of some chords, an arpeggio or a pad could be used to do a similar job in a composition. There's not a great difference between the specific parts and the musical parts, but recognizing them can help you assign suitable tracks in the arrangement. Also, SongSketch is using these parts to auto-assign your tracks. For example, a bass part will look for a track with bass in its name. Effects parts are recognized by the circle icon. Effects parts are typically not played repeatedly, but appear at specific places. SongSketch therefore handles effect parts differently as compared to specific parts and musical parts. When effect parts are included in SongSketch arrangements, they are there to provide some ideas where effect parts may be added. You might wonder how vocal tracks would be used in SongSketch. SongSketch is not working directly with vocals in terms of vocal stems throughout the track. If you have some vocals that you are composing music to, the best option would be to have those vocals as audio tracks on the arrangement view. Use SongSketch to put songs on the arrangement view and put it together in the live arrangement view. If you have vocals in terms of shorter vocal loops, they can of course be used in SongSketch just like your other musical loops. Most times the amount of tracks you happen to have in a loop will be different from the amount of parts present in an arrangement. So let's look into how that works. This arrangement has 10 parts and I have 12 tracks in my loop. In this scenario, SongSketch creates 2 empty tracks for me. One option now would be to just ignore that some of the tracks aren't included in the arrangement. I can move the arrangement I already have here to the arrangement view. Then I can add the percussion and the cymbal manually in the live arrangement view. Another option is to set one of the extra parts to a type. In this case, percussion. I can draw in some bars directly in the SongSketch timeline. You can click empty bars to draw and click again to delete. And with this menu, you can select how many bars to add and delete at a time. More details on editing in this view will be given in a separate tutorial on how to create your own arrangements. Let's load another arrangement and look at the opposite situation. I now have a few more parts in the arrangement than I have tracks in my loop. Again, we can of course use this as is and continue working from this in the arrangement view. Alternatively, I could make use of any of the tracks I already have to fill out for the extra parts. For instance, I can add in some of this pad here. Another option would be to add something else you might have to a track in the session view and load the arrangement again to pick up the new track. At the bottom of the SongSketch window, you can see the sections of the arrangement that we have open. The sections are illustrated here to give information about what the sections are in this particular song. It is also possible to edit the section in this view, but that is only needed when you are creating your own arrangement. How to do that will be covered in a separate tutorial. You may have noticed that some of the arrangements have small lines over some of the bars. These are automation effects that are related to the effects section. To hear any automation, you need to make use of the sketch rack, which was included in the download. How to work with sketch rack will also be covered in a separate tutorial. To get the most out of using SongSketch, think of it as a middle step in the process of making a track. As soon as you have an idea, a loop that consists of your main elements, something like 8 to 16 parts, use SongSketch to try out different arrangement and find a starting point that fits your idea. When trying out arrangements on your loop, you might want to put a few different versions on the arrangement view to compare and to see what works best for your idea. Remember that you can move around the parts, giving you different results while using the same arrangement. It is also possible to use multiple scenes, so you can have different clips for different sections. For example, if you have a different chord progression in the choruses. Details on how to do this are available on the website.